Welcome to another amazing session of Elevate and Empower the Vibrant Living Women Summit. Today, Emmalou Penrod is coming to the stage. She is a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a retired school teacher. But her passion and her current occupation is a family relationship coach, and it is called Healing Your Families. Her experience has taught her what the strength of foundations families are in today's society, and she is passionate about making the world a better place, one family at a time. So, her title today is Empower Your Emotions. She will be sharing strategies for achieving your goals and strengthening relationships by using your emotions instead of your emotions using you. So, join me in welcoming Emmalou.
Thank you, Donna. I am so glad I had the opportunity to meet you. I've long admired your sensitive, caring, warm heart and your good spirit and how you empower people to become their best selves. I've benefited from your program, and I am deeply honored to be presenting at your Elevate and Empower Vibrant Living Women's Summit. And I'm also very excited to be able to share something that's near and dear to my heart, and that's learning how to harness the power of our emotions. So I want to share my screen. And my goal, by the time we get through, is to give you some practical steps and tools you can use to benefit from your emotions, actually employ those emotions in reaching your goals. And I want to explain a little bit about my story. So when I was a teenager, I just had these horrid emotional outbursts. I did not understand where they came from, why they happened, or what on earth I was supposed to do with all this emotional energy. It was painful to me. It got me in trouble. I remember one incident when I was in my early teens, and there was a boy visiting our family, and I really wanted to impress him. I was trying so hard to act grown up, and some irritation, minor thing happened. And the next thing I knew, I was just having a full-blown conniption fit. It was embarrassing. It was humiliating. It just plagued me. What was wrong with me? Why couldn't I manage my emotions any better than I did? And I will remember, I remember saying it on more than one occasion, that I sincerely wished I could just have my emotions surgically removed. I couldn't see that they served any practical function. They just got in my way. They kept me from living the kind of life I wanted. They got me in trouble. And I just wanted them gone. And I did try and stuff them. I tried to repress them and just hold it in. And it didn't work. It would be like trying to contain Mount Vesuvius. And I grew up. I got married. I became a mother. And I remember when I was expecting our first child, I so wanted to be that calm, patient, gentle, loving mother who never raised her voice, never lost her temper with her precious children. And of course, I failed miserably. And I tried to be the sweet, loving wife. My husband, I remember when he mentioned to me, normally you're good natured and you can go along with things for quite a while, and then suddenly you just explode. And that was what happened. I would make the resolve. Every morning I would say, I will not lose my temper today. And sometimes that would work for hours. I could go as long as 10 a.m. And I never gave up. Every night I'd go to bed saying, well, I'll do better tomorrow. And I kept up that resolve. In time, of course, and with Donna's training, she brings this up. I learned it would have been much more effective if I had made the resolve, I remain calm and loving with my children, and put it in the positive rather than in the negative. But I didn't know this. I was going along doing the best I could, really working at it without having all the knowledge and all the tools I needed to understand my emotions and how to manage them. When my children became a little older, I became a school teacher, and I love that. And again, I wanted to be that teacher who was always in control of her own emotions. I'd been in classrooms where a teacher lost it, and it's ugly. You lose respect for the teacher. I wanted to be patient with my students. I wanted to always manage my emotions and do what was best for them. Well, I spent a lot of time trying to learn about it. I read a lot of books. I studied. I took classes. I just wanted to understand what do I do with these emotions? What are they good for? And I want to share some truths I learned along the way. The first, probably most important truth, is that emotions are neither good nor bad. I would categorize them. Here are the good emotions, here are the bad emotions. I want to get rid of these, never feel these, and just use these all the time. But I learned that emotions are just energy. It's emotion, the Latin root is energy and motion. And they all have a purpose. For example, the one I feared the most was my anger. I really tried to eliminate my anger. But anger motivates you to take action. Anger freed the slaves. It got women the vote. Anger can do a lot of good. And because emotions are just energy, like all forms of energy, they can be converted. Here's an example of converting the energy of the wind to electrical energy for businesses, farms, and homes. So fire is another example. Fire can be used to cook food. A campfire can keep you warm on a cold night of camping. But fire can also be destructive. And it's the same thing with our emotions. They can be converted into useful means that move us forward, or they can be destructive. I learned that we actually have two brains, two kinds of intelligence, our mind and our heart, our thoughts and our feelings, our brain and our emotions. And both are important. Now, if I could have had my wish, somehow had my emotions surgically removed and just had my brain, my head, I would be a computer, a robot. And I wouldn't have been a caring mother I wouldn't have stayed there when things got frustrating and difficult in caring for my children. I would have quit. We need both, and they need to be balanced. I mentioned what happens if we just let the mind take over. We lose those feelings of caring. And when we let the feelings take over, we lose the reason. And that's when emotions can become destructive. We need both. They interact with each other. Our thoughts and our emotions are connected. One example is, say you're laying in bed late at night and you hear a strange sound. And your thought is, that's a strange sound, I don't know what that is, that can trigger an emotional response of fear. And then that fear can generate more thoughts. Is it a burglar? Did someone break in? I'm all alone. What can I do? Can I reach my phone? So they interact. And let me give you one example. This is something I remember well in raising my children. Now, picture this. You're a young mother. You're trying to get everyone ready and out the door so you're not late. Your toddler says, Mommy, I want milk. Pour me a glass of milk. I want milk right now. And you've got to finish this task you're in the middle of doing. And you tell her, honey, just wait. I'll be right back and I'll pour you a glass of milk. You finish that needed task and you come back to this. She couldn't wait. She went ahead and poured herself a glass of milk. Now, consider that you have the thought, what a mess. This is the last thing I need. Couldn't she wait? How long, you know how long it's going to take me to clean this mess up and we're already running late? And thoughts like that, even just saying them without really having the situation, bring up feelings of frustration and anger. And when we have those feelings, we're not the calm, patient mother we wanted to be. Now, suppose you had the thought, she's trying so hard to be independent. She's growing. She wants to do things for herself. She's getting to be a big girl. And thoughts like that can lead to more patient emotions. Maybe you feel like, okay, let's, appreciate you tried, honey, but here's a rag. We need to clean it up. And maybe next time we need to use both hands when we hold the jug. Two completely different thoughts can lead to two very different emotions. And my experience as I went through my journey and learning how to deal with my emotions is that it is easier for me to change my thoughts. And once I did change my thoughts, I could immediately change my emotion. Here's another example. You're walking down the street and you see a friend and you give them a call out to them, friendly wave, and they walk by and don't even acknowledge you. You could have the thought, well, they're being a jerk. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Or you could have the thought, she must really have her mind on something else. Each thought leads to a different emotional response. The most empowering thing I learned on my journey is that I have the power to change my thoughts. I can control my thoughts. Now, a thought, something happens, you get a trigger and you may immediately have this thought, but you decide whether or not it stays. Like hearing the strange sound in the middle of the night. That's alarming you, you need to take action, you need to do something. But you can decide is your thought pattern going to move into what can I do that's constructive, or is your thought going to just start this worry spiral that spirals out of control? Another emotion we sometimes want to avoid is sadness. Nobody wants to be sad. We got to be happy. Just put on a happy face. But sadness helps us understand ourselves better. It serves that purpose. We can take that emotion of sadness and just sit with it and do some introspective work, reflect. Is there something in our life we need to change? Is there something we need to change about a relationship? Is there something, and maybe a skill we need to improve or a character trait? Sadness can help us identify what needs to be done, what needs to change in our lives. And again, if I could have had my emotions surgically removed, would I have been able to love my children? those emotions bind us together. They strengthen relationships. I couldn't have been an effective mother or teacher without my emotions. My emotions were a necessary part of that phase in my life, being a mother and being a teacher. And I also found emotions can motivate. I can take that energy of an emotion and it will motivate me to move forward. Maybe when I'm afraid or nervous and I have that emotional resolve and I can move forward. And that's when that emotion is tempered with the logic and the reason. We have the heart and the head, the thoughts and the emotions. And when they're working together effectively, it's very motivating. When we let the emotions lead the way, it can be overwhelming. If you've ever had that experience where you're totally overwhelmed by your emotions, you couldn't move, you couldn't function, you couldn't think. When we allow those emotions to run rampant, that can be the result. Now, I just love this example of a family relationship because our emotions do indeed strengthen our family relationships. We need our emotions to love and care for each other. Now look at this father and son. I love the way he's sitting down, so he's more on an eye level with his son. And they're making eye contact. It looks like this could be the conclusion of some emotional outburst, a disagreement. Maybe the father had to correct the son. But there's communication is taking place. They're maintaining eye contact. Right now, it looks like the father's talking, but probably just before this, he was listening to his son. And now the son is listening to him. And I love this example of how we can use these how we can use our emotions in our relationships to help us resolve conflict, to help strengthen our relationships. Now, the most empowering fact I learned, all of this is possible for everyone. What I found out on my journey is those times when I felt I was at the mercy of my emotions, I couldn't do anything about it. I was saying things like, well, I could stay calm if my kids would just cooperate. What I was doing was blaming someone else, putting someone else in charge of my emotions. Well, I'll have a good day if my students cooperate, if they get their assignments turned in. And it was when I was able to accept that the only person I can control is myself. I have no control over what another person does, says, or thinks. I can only control what I do, say, or think. I remember a time when I became very frustrated because my students were not turning in their assignments. And I would try bribes. I would try to encourage them. I would try to threaten them. And nothing seemed to work. And then I finally decided that's their realm. I put a basket on my desk and I just let them know any papers that are in this basket by Friday will be graded and reported on the weekly report. And then I let them decide what they would do. But it was so empowering. You know, they say total freedom can only come with total responsibility. And when I was ready to say, okay, I'm responsible for my emotions, then I found I could manage them. I mentioned several books that I read and studied. The one that perhaps influenced me the most was the book Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. And in his book, he talks about IQ and EQ. Now, we're most familiar with IQ, our intelligence quotient. And I remember when that was so important. We don't pay so much attention to it now. But we used to use that as the predictor of success. we would know that a high school student was ready for college and probably would do well and excel if they had a high IQ. But a huge amount of research has been done, and Daniel Goleman quotes it in his book. And we all know of very intelligent people who have trouble getting along with others, that are being in times when someone lost their temper on the job and lost the job, that emotional intelligence is actually a more accurate predictor of success. It's not, are you smart enough? It's, are you resilient enough? Can you stick to a goal? Can you use your energy to fuel you rather than to destroy you? So I want to share some of these components of emotional intelligence, and I use them as the basis for my online class that I'll be telling you about later. So the first is to take a look, assess your own emotional intelligence. Just do a little self-introspection. Are you using your emotions to reach your goals? Or do you feel like you're being used by your emotions? How easily are you triggered or offended? Are you normally an optimistic person, or are you normally unhappy? Being aware of your own emotional intelligence, your own level, is important. It's a good place to start. And we need to be aware of our emotions, be able to identify them. Now, this is not as easy as it sounds, because we have secondary emotions like anger or fear that can mask another emotion. For example, sometimes we don't want to admit that we're jealous of someone. It's much more comfortable to be angry. Anger kicks in the adrenaline. Some people even become addicted to anger because they love that adrenaline rush. And we feel like we're angry when in fact we're feeling jealous. Or we feel like, I'm afraid, it's fear, when actually we're feeling insecure. Being able to sit with that emotion, identify it. Okay, what am I really feeling? Okay, we may start with one emotion and say, okay, now what's under that? And understanding it and learning from it. Okay, what is this emotion telling me? Why am I feeling? A good question to ask is, why am I feeling angry? Why does this make me angry? What about this? And understanding it and being able to identify the emotions you feel. One of the exercises I recommend in this course is to keep an emotion journal. What emotion do you feel most frequently? And what emotion is underneath? Being aware of our emotions is huge. The next thing is, how do we regulate our emotions? Are you able to express your needs in a calm tone of voice, or do you always have to shout them? I remember the comment my husband made. That was true. I would just stuff down the anger, stuff it down until it could not be stuffed any longer, and it exploded. Can you express, I need this, and just express it calmly? And you may have felt like you've been emotionally hijacked. There are those things, those triggers that just, like the strange noise in the middle of the night. But how quickly can you recover? Here's another reaction. How quickly can you recover from an emotional hijacking? How do you handle it? Are you able to balance that head and heart, mind and emotions? And then another component is your goals. Do you have goals? What are they? And are you able to use the energy of your emotions, convert it into taking steps that move you closer to what you want? Or do you allow the emotions to overwhelm you and discourage you? You have a difficult challenge at work. Do you take that energy, that frustration, that anger, and say, okay, what do I need to learn? What are my resources? Who can help me with this? Or do you just allow the strength of that emotion to just wear you down? Another component is how well are you able to understand the emotions of someone else? How empathetic are you? Are you a good listener? Do other people consider you a good listener? Are you able to understand another person's perspective, especially if you're having a disagreement with them? Can you understand and accept their position? Can you feel what they're feeling, or at least understand what they're feeling? Empathy, your ability to experience empathy, to listen actively is another component of active listening. And then when you do have conflict, and conflict is inevitable in family life, anytime you have two or more people sharing living space, there will be conflict, but it doesn't have to become contention. Conflict can be resolved with respect, and it can be resolved in such a way that the relationship is strengthened. I like this picture. It looks like they're both trying to talk at the same time, and that never works. The important thing is the communicating, but the listening is the biggest part of that communicating. Now, if you're a parent, another important thing I cover in this course is, are you teaching your children to handle their emotions? Now, mostly you'll be doing this by your example. Daniel Goleman points out in his book that the greatest benefit to children, to any child, is to be raised by an emotionally intelligent parent, because children learn from your example, especially when they're young. They want to be with you. They want to be like you. They want to do what you're doing, and they're watching you and they're learning from your example. And then as they get a little older, you can begin coaching them through some of those strong emotions they have, some of those big feelings, and helping them learn how to handle them. So I know my greatest challenge as a mother were those times when I was just emotionally hijacked. Something happened and bam, I had a split reaction. So I wrote a guide. It's just some steps you can take before, during, and after those triggers that just cause you to hit the ceiling. And if you go to this website, 8steps.emmaloupenrod.com, you can get that guide. That is free. Now, if you're interested in the course, is use your emotions rather than let your emotions use you. There are 24 lessons. And throughout, while you're taking the course, there are 2 live question and answer Zoom calls that any specific questions you have can be addressed. But as you go through these assignments, they're guiding you through those components of emotional intelligence, giving you specific steps you can follow to harness the energy of your emotions and use them in a way that moves you forward towards your goals. There's all the information is on a PDF. There is also a coupon code or $50 off or 20% off because you attended this summit. Thank you for joining us, and I wish you the best.
Well, I am so excited for you to get Emmallou's free gift. Use your emotions instead of your emotions using you, downloadable PDF, as well as the coupon code for her program. So to get that gift and all the gifts in the summit, all of the speakers' gifts, click the link below and schedule a call with me, and I will deliver all of those to you. So until we get together again for the next session, we're rolling here. I look forward to seeing you there. Comment below, what is standing out to you in this episode? What takeaways are you taking? Bye for now.